Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to today's special Initium expert session. We are thrilled to have you all here, joining us for what promises to be an enlightening and enriching experience. I am your host, Anushka, and it's my pleasure to guide you through today's session featuring a remarkable individual in the world of debating. Today, we have the distinct honor of being in the virtual presence of someone truly extraordinary. Our guest for the Initium expert session is none other than Afreen Khan. She is not just a lead trainer, she is the driving force behind the success of debaters representing India at esteemed institutions like Stanford and Harvard in 2023. But that's not all. Afreen is more than just a trainer. She is a super calm and cheerful mentor, fostering an environment where debaters can not only learn but thrive. Her expertise extends beyond the training room. She is a well established judge and debater and in international circuits. Over to you, Afreen.
Hi, Anushka. Thank you so much for that introduction. Can I get sharing rights? Do I have sharing rights? I don't think so. Okay, I do. I got it. All right. Hi, everyone. I hope I'm audible and visible. Can I get like a confirmation by anyone that I am completely audible?
Yes, ma'am, we can hear you and see you.
All right. Perfect. Perfect. Thank you so much. So there are going to be just two rules before I start today's session. One, if you have any doubts, I really appreciate if you could just raise your hand. I will give you the opportunity to speak. But then if you think the doubt is extremely important and urgent, then just put in the chat box. I will look into the chat box and answer to it. But obviously, like I think the session is going to be extremely engaging, and I will ask you a couple of questions. So I would want you all to speak as well. So here it is. It is the art of argumentation, and in this, I think the first thing that I need you all to understand is that how exactly do you form arguments? Because whenever we see motions and whenever we see topics, the first thing that comes to our head is that, okay, these are the points that I'm going to run on proposition, or these are the points that I'm going to run on opposition. But how do you structure those points, and how do you efficiently present those points in such a way that it makes sense to the judges, but it also convinces the judges is the most important thing that I'm going to be teaching you today. But before that, so in terms of formation of argument, and that's the most important thing that you need to know if you are debating anywhere, right? Firstly, know your topic. I think there are two ways to deal with that. One is when the topic is prepared. So I think you have so much more leverage to go ahead and research about it and know what your topic is. But the second part of it is when it's impromptu and you probably have like 15 minutes to 30 minutes or like 1 hour based on the format that you're actually debating in. In the second scenario, then I think there's so much more in terms of argumentative skills and your knowledge about that particular topic as opposed to your research on the topic. But what it basically means is that if you want to be a good debater, you need to continuously have the habit of reading. Other than that, I think it's just very impossible for you to just make arguments and be able to supply with like good evidence, good examples in order to actually stick and convince the people that, yeah, I probably, this is what the stance is, and this is why you should believe in what I'm saying. So that's the first thing that I wanted to cover. The second thing is identify your stance. I think stance is more in terms of what are you defending, and why are you defending it is the second part. So what are you defending exactly? So I think oftentimes you get like motions and topics which are just one sentence, or which are basically trying to implement a policy, or they're trying to have some amount of changes, or even if it's not change, it's just probably supporting or opposing a particular belief, a concept, principle, etc. It could be literally anything. But the thing that you actually need to understand with that is that if this is the statement, and there's two side proposition and opposition, and let's say if I'm given a side particularly, then what exactly is my side and how am I supposed to defend it in the first place? The reason as to why this becomes extremely important is because so many motions have binary in them. For example, this or that. So if it is this or that, you know that if your proposition, it's not just like you telling the benefits of this, but you're also supposed to tell as to why it's not that. So it's more competitive, and you're supposed to be more, you're also supposed to defend your counterfactual in that scenario. So I think that's something which you also need to understand, because oftentimes if it's like, hey, let this house would ban smoking, it's just simple. You either ban smoking or you don't ban smoking, and that's the time when you don't probably have to think a lot about the stance. But I've seen so many good debaters just making so many mistakes in just trying to identify what their stance is, because the wordings at times could be confusing. The wordings at times are just probably saying prioritize, but you think that, hey, it's not prioritize, it's something, it's basically one over the other, but then that does not mean that you're not doing the other thing at all. So for example, if I say this house would prioritize X over Y, it's not just that, hey, the Y thing is not going to happen at all, but it's just that, hey, in points of times when you have to prioritize one thing over the other, it's going to be X over Y. So it's just like the priority and preference rather than yes or no for Y and X. So that's another thing that I wanted to cover. But moving on as to why are you defending that? So I think oftentimes when we figure out that this is our topic and this is our stance, we then come up with different paragraphs of reasonings without basically tagging them as to why and what exactly that means. We do know that this paragraph proves a particular point, but we don't oftentimes tag that in our speeches, which is extremely important. So obviously, when you know what you're defending, you need to give your stance and you need to give your, like, why are you defending it? But after that, so I have told the judge that, hey, this is why you should be supporting my stance, but I haven't told the judge as to why this is the better stance in the first place. I could say that there are so many benefits of my side, but that could possibly not prove as to why the other side is bad. So I think that's also a very important thing that you need to keep in your mind. But I think this is rather getting a lot theoretical, and it's probably like very difficult to like follow. But I'll actually come to an example in just a bit. But have you ever noticed that whenever you get emotion, there is something called as problem, and there's something called a solution, and then there's something called a status quo. But before I move forward with this, you guys know what status quo is? No? Is there anyone who knows what status quo is? Like, it's a debate jargon. Okay, yeah, Yagya Chandan.
Current context.
Correct.
Status
yes.
quo basically stands for current context.
Exactly. So you would have to tell people that what's happening in the world right now. For example, if it's a motion about Russia, Ukraine, you would have to necessarily defend as to what the status quo is right now. And then if there is like something about, okay, this is what we should do in terms of policy, this is what we should do in terms of sanctions, that comes later. But why are we doing that in the first place is so much more related to what the status quo is. So what status quo basically means, what's happening right now and what's the context of that in the first place. And is the current scenario okay enough, or should we change anything about it? If we should change anything about it, proposition oftentimes supports the proposed model of solution. Opposition at times can give alternative to that model, which means that you have two things. Either you support whatever, you oppose whatever the solution proposition has been proposing, or you could just say that, hey, the solution is probably a problem with respect to, there's probably a problem with respect to problem solution mismatch, which means that, yeah, sure, the problem exists, but then it's also possible that the solution is not going to solve the problem in the first place. So I'm going to give you a better solution, and I'm going to tell you as to why my solution is better. So in that regard, the way how your speeches should also be knit is going to be, you identify the problem first, and then you make a chain towards reaching the solution. So this is the problem, and these are the reasons as to why you're likely going to reach towards that solution. But yes, I have a motion, and I'll ask you a couple of questions, and then you just let me know what you think about that. It's actually this house would. So this house would implement one-child policy. If this is the motion, my first question, and this is the first question that you should actually answer whenever you're getting motion. So my first question is, what is the problem? What problem are we trying to solve? And you can raise hands and I can tell you. I'll just pick and choose. Okay, Dia.
All right. So the problem here that we must be focusing currently would be the population and the use of the human resource which is there. And if you talk about one-child policy, then this is obviously in a context of a state actor. So it is of a population of a nation, basically.
Okay. fair. So it is population, and you talked about resources. Are there any other problems then? Soumya. Okay, Soumya has no other problems. Yagavit, do you have another problem?
Yeah, another problem might be the issues that come with overpopulation, I guess, like
Mhm.
congestion, pollution, and you could say heat spots developing in cities, basically.
Yeah.
And you could also say having too many mouths to feed, having too many dependents in a population with lower working people.
Mm-hmm.
So that could be the additional problems. And like you didn't ask me this, but like I immediately got a counter to this motion in my mind,
Yeah.
which was like the idea of a sigmoid curve. Is this motion in context of India, like right
No,
now?
it's just so unless okay, yeah, that's also a good thing to clarify. Unless the motion says a particular nation, you don't have to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, it's not in context of India.
No.
Okay, but even if it's not in context of India, I would basically say this biology concept, which I know, which is a sigmoid curve in terms of population, in which it
Mhm.
like a human population grows to a development stage or a rocketing stage. So currently we are at a rocketing stage, but after that, eventually we'll come to a lag stage. So I could say that even if we won't implement a one-child policy, we'll eventually come to the lag stage according to the laws of nature. So that is one against point I could say, even if it was in
So
context of the
that
world.
would be your alternative or a counter policy that you
Yeah, like the counter
it
solution you have
would just be
written
like,
in three.
hey, you probably don't have to do it because it's like counterproductive because it's
Yes.
anyways going. Yeah, I think that's a good stance. Cool, Aditi. But like before I go to Aditi, I think what Yagyakrit did here is basically two things. He just did not tell like these are the problems, but he also concretized the problems. So there are problems related to the problem, and when you concretize these problems, you basically establish urgency of why we need a solution, which is why it's really important for you to just like not just state the problem, but also concretize them. Good job, Aditi.
I actually had a doubt. So,
Hmm.
can we refer to countries as an example? Like Yagya wanted to refer to India, right?
Mhm.
So, in the same way, like can we refer to a
Again,
country rather than
that's a very
just
good question.
debating on that
So
country?
in scenarios where you see that there is no context of which country it is happening in, the point of characterization becomes important. I'm not sure if you have been taught this, but characterization is the part, like the first part of your speech, where you're supposed to tell as to where is this debate happening and why is it likely that this debate is actually happening in such a place. For example, I think it's very important for you to just place this debate in places where it's higher, like it's extremely populated, or a place where you have like crunch in terms of employment, a place where you probably have environmental issues, etc. So in that scenario, I could give multiple examples, and I don't have to just say that hey, this debate happens in India, because I could literally say this debate could happen in India. This debate could happen in Southeast like Asia, where there is high population. This debate happens in, let's say, Middle Eastern countries where you have extreme problems with respect to environmental issues. So I mean in that scenario, I'm just basically diversifying like a lot of my arguments. Dia.
Yeah. So basically, I just had a doubt.
Hmm.
So while we are figuring out the problem in proposition and opposition, so proposition is also the government. So are we going to look at the the agenda with a perspective that we are the government, we are running a particular nation, and
Mhm.
we need to look at that topic morally and like ethically for our citizens. And when we are at opposition, should we like think according to the political perspective, or is it like in proposition you will find the problem which will be for the motion, and in opposition you'll be finding the problem which will be against the motion, like which thing we must follow?
Yeah, so I think this happens a lot with whenever you see this house vote and policy motions, who exactly is implementing these policies, should I think with respect to that like policy maker. But right now you just have to think like a neutral policy maker. Yes, you are actually the government, but that doesn't, but you also have the fiat. So your fiat is that irrespective of whatever the policy is, it is going to be passed. So opposition cannot say that, hey, your government, you'll basically lose power, or this policy is not going to get passed in parliament, which is why you probably don't need to think about what's my moral duty, etc. But at the point in time when you're actually making arguments, this becomes really important to think when you're making arguments. For example, principles of state actor. Do you guys know about social contract theory?
As in,
as in the state's responsibility to the citizens, and then state is supposed to basically protect the rights of the people, and then citizens in return are supposed to have are obligated to are obliged to do all of the duties that exist with them. So it's basically state has the responsibility to protect the citizens, which means that state is basically going to make sure that you have proper rights, you have proper welfare, all of that. So in that scenario, you can be like, hey, this policy is justified because it basically comes under the principle of social contract or principle of state duty or state obligation. And in that scenario, you can probably run such arguments. But I won't say that spend a lot of time of saying that, hey, you're the government, you're responsible for it, because you're the government, you know that. Why would you spend time with that? So yeah. Okay.
Ma'am,
Yeah.
and just one last thing, like Aditi said about taking examples. So if the opposition took the example that China implemented a one-child policy and it implemented one rigorously, and the results are so like the opposition can like interpret the the effect of the one-child policy population on China in any way, right?
Yes.
Like it can go both sides. Maybe they could say that China has become a powerhouse, and maybe we can say that China has now got an aging population. So that debate, how would that be resolved?
So I think in order to answer that, I have two ways. One is with respect to the PPT itself, but the second way is that if such a point, and like a very straight answer is that if you see that somebody is using context specifically saying that, hey, it was in China and it not work, and it's likely that it's not going to work in other countries, you're supposed to figure out as to why it did not work. So there's something called as cherry-picked examples. So cherry-picked example is you conveniently only taking examples of like some countries where it did not work. But also that means that you can find out as to why it did not work. I mean, Chinese culture is something that basically led to a lot of like female feticides and stuff like that, because like they essentially have so much misogyny within their culture, which is why it did not work.
Yeah,
but that
and
does not,
like it was easier to implement the one-child policy there
because it's dictatorship and stuff.
Yeah, it's
But
dictatorship.
yeah. But I mean, I won't necessarily ask you to say that, hey, it's easier to implement it, but like because it's dictatorship, because you're assuming that it's probably Western, like it's a liberal democracy in most countries, and then you're also assuming that this policy is going to be passed. So you're not questioning the implementation part, but you're questioning the efficiency of the policy. So yes, Soumya.
Right. So I had the question of basically we just discussed how we can use examples, right? So assuming in a debate that happens, the opposition and the proposition both use examples to support their point of view, right? How would a debate be solved in that matter? Because both examples are of countries, let's assume the examples of countries that are prevalent. The opposition has an example, the proposition has an example. Which one takes precedence and how?
That's again, I think that's going to be only answered when I tell you what parts of argument exist and how judges actually judge debates. But let's come back to the second part of saying that why does the problem exist? Because just by the fact that a problem exists wouldn't be solved by people giving policy, because unless and until you find out the proper root cause of it, it just not like solved. So my question is, why do you think people have so many kids?
In my sociology textbook, it was written because of lack of recreation in villages.
That is actually like an answer to that, but there are more reasons. Yes, Soumya.
Right. So not only is it because of, again, lack of information, lack of knowledge, and education itself, there is also that, again, it's a contradiction that occurs when you talk about this reason for the problem that we discussed of overpopulation. The issue of that now the mortality rates, they're better. Like right now, as many children that are born, they don't die, and that's a good thing. But if we're opposing this motion and just like we're talking about why a problem exists, and the answer to that, why a problem is to exist, is a good thing morally and ethically.
Yeah. That's again, true. Navya, what's your why do you think this problem is?
One cause can be the lack of use of contraception in the rural parts.
And lack of awareness of it. Yes, that's a good point.
Yes.
Tanisha?
Even I would like to say the mentality of the people, because how people emphasize over having a boy child and continue to have children until they like reach their supreme goal called the boy child.
Yes, that's also a very good point. Syed Saad.
Well, I'd say that another reason is in certain societies, including Indian societies, it is considered auspicious or good to have a child, and society as a whole believes that having a child is something that is good and that is something like an obligation on every human being. It's a belief of some societies, and I think even societal inertia plays a role. Even if there's awareness, people do not want to change their old mindset, which has been passed to them through their elders.
That's true. So, and Johan, what's your point?
Agree. Hello, you hear me?
Yes, yes.
Agreeing to Syed, I want to say that it's the cultural perspectives of the people that cause them to follow these kinds of traditions, because it's traditionally passed on through them through their elders.
My next question, I think that's all very fair. My next question is, what do you think is India's point of view for one-child policy, and what do you think is the major opposition? Like what's the major contention for opposition?
Have you seen the show Panchayat, ma'am?
I haven't.
Okay, so there was this dialogue said there, like there is this panchayat secretary who works there. So he tries to spread the two-child policy in his village by this slogans called "दो बच्चे हैं मीठी खीर उससे ज्यादा बावासीर."
Okay.
So that didn't work in that village, and the people got angry instead that they are claiming that more than two children are piles. So
okay, but that's
so,
like that's more of a campaigning issue rather.
Yeah, it's more of a campaigning issue, but it just shows ki what Indian mindset is still. I mean, we don't see more children as burden. We still see more children as a good investment. Like in India,
I mean, a lot of like villages in India still see more people means more human resource, means more income in house, all of that. Side part, what's your take?
My view is that any artificial attempt by any sovereign government to interfere in something that is truly the personal matter of the people, that shouldn't be allowed. For example,
that's actually a very good opposition, because I
one
think
child policy, that itself is not even in a democratic country. It is in a
it goes
communist
against the
dictatorship.
personal choice of an individual. So you all have right
Exactly.
to choice. Yes.
The government should provide methods of terminating the pregnancy in the most extreme cases, but in other cases, the government shouldn't impose how many children can the families have, how much they should have. It is the choice of the mother and the choice of the father. It is their choice. How many do
Bodily
they want to have?
autonomy. Yeah, a lot of rights of like constitutional rights can come into picture.
Exactly. Right to
very good
life
point.
and liberty. The government cannot impose it. And in this case, China implemented one child policy. We've seen the disaster they've gone through now. And Korea implemented a system where they discouraged the having children. We've seen the crisis they are going through now. India also is now stalling because, like Youngfrit pointed out, there was that slogan, "Do hai to meethi kheer, uske zyada bawasir." That itself is an example.
Okay, guys, but I think what like major opposition from India was also religion, because it's like seen, it's very religious. Like it's an like you fulfill a lot of like your duties, religious duties when you have kids. So why are you first? Why are you opposing a very natural process of human nature? And you shouldn't be stopping the creation.
So the overspread misogyny and sexism does not allow the woman to take decisions on her having kids. It depends on the father and
that's also true. Let's actually move forward. Otherwise, I won't be able to finish a lot of the things that I have to cover. I have another motion for you all. This house, in areas of unemployment, will prioritize funding vocational studies as opposed to literature and humanities. So here I have already specified which place it is going to be applicable to. It is high unemployment. So motion, you'll have to read carefully. My first question is, okay, just read it and absorb the motion, and then I'll ask questions. Are there any questions on the motion? Do you understand what vocational training is? So skill-based training. likely to give you a tailor, you becoming, let's say, going to a job which is coding also could come under vocational, to be fair. Okay, question. Why is the motion specifically related to high unemployment areas then? I'll actually look into the participants list so I can see. Somebody who has not spoken yet. Okay, I'll go in the order. Saipat, what's your answer?
In areas of high unemployment, specifically high unemployment, the reason we are emphasizing on that is there are many parts of the country today that are suffering from high unemployment as a result of the coronavirus recession. And generally, even during good times in India, like an economic boom, our unemployment rate is always at least 4 to 5%. That is not normal. In such an overpopulated country, of course, we are overpopulated, we have to admit. In such a situation, we are supposed to turn out like we're supposed to focus on ensuring the people can get jobs, vocational studies, rather than philosophy.
Fair. Dia, what's your point?
All right. So we think it of like as a motion when it comes to the government. So one of the major public demand for government is employment, because that is what is going to sustain you forever and give you income so that you can have other luxuries and other benefits of life. So this particular term, unemployment area, is basically here focused so that the actual, what do we call the spice
The
of
demand,
the cake comes in.
yeah, you got it.
Exactly. The spice of the week comes in because the actual demand of people is always for the government for so that they can get employment. So that half of their problems are already being solved. And in the case of opposition, why is this nice? Because it becomes a direct allegation on the government that this is because of the absolute failure of that government, that there is high rate of unemployment, and now they're also implementing this thing that they're focusing more on vocational studies.
Yeah.
So it becomes a tricky or basically controversial issue, and that's the reason this term is used.
Okay, Neeti?
Well, I think the reason why they focus on the high unemployment areas is because of the vocational studies, because they can focus on vocational studies, which in turn makes them learn about the jobs that are based on practical activities and which are non-academic. So it can help them to, you know, basically enhance the knowledge as vocational study.
Okay, Aradhya?
Okay, so yeah, the unemployment is caused due to various reasons. So first of all, we can say about the demand side of the employer also, or supplier also. Okay, so demand side, that can be reduced due to many, causes, like there will be interest rates, global recessions, financial crisis, and the that the major, cause will be increase in population. So India is having a very high employment rate, and that is affecting the global financial crisis very badly. So what I think is that it should be like there is major unemployment is currently in the urban areas, that I think personally.
Okay. So I think we're moving too fast, because I think I've already told you that whenever you see why it is the way it is, it's there's a hidden meaning behind it. We're moving too fast because we didn't establish the first part, and then we're moving towards the second one. The first part is, why do you think there is unemployment in that area? But secondly, why do you think it's going to be only solved by vocational training as opposed to something else? So there is identification of problem, and then why the problem exists, which is why the area is specifically unemployment. Because in places where there is no unemployment, it's all right. You don't have to prioritize funding in particular areas. So that's why the point of this motion is this. But
again, for this also, ma'am, I have a very good example. Like Germany. Germany during 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, and 2000s, it underwent rapid industrialization because there was high unemployment. Resources were being underutilized and they had a bad economy. Then they became, I think, the fourth largest GDP. I think Germany is the fourth largest GDP. It has companies like Bosch, Siemens, BMW, Mercedes, etc. Big brands, we all know them. Now, recently, German government started a scheme in which it is paying £100 to each German teenager for consuming arts and literature, like works of arts and literature, because they found out that they were not being utilized anymore. So we could say that after the area of high unemployment has been addressed, we can do literature and humanities. And one major cause of unemployment may be the people lack the skills which would make them employable. The people lack the modern day skills which are in demand, which would lead to a subsequent contribution to the
So for
economy.
you to establish that, you'll have to say that the reason of unemployment is probably A, there was like issue with respect to educational access in that particular area. B, there could be poverty. C, there could be, let's say, a disparity between like classes, etc., which is why people did not get jobs. D, it
Racism?
could be just like failure of state. Who was saying something?
Yeah, may I say just one thing here?
Yeah, go on.
In India, unemployment is less of a problem than underemployment or disguised unemployment. The fact is, we are in the rural areas, we are seeing that many people are doing work that less people would be better suited for, and they're not reaching their full potential. And as a result, they are not being able to earn a proper living, and this has led to slower economic growth. In fact, in sectors like agriculture and education, it's the biggest problem. We could create so many jobs just by focusing on these two sectors. We should invest more. At the same time, we should invest in vocational studies, but we should also invest in trying to have like a scheme from state to state to try and ensure that whatever can be done at the minimum amount of people is done at that level only, while the rest can be given other jobs. They can be prepared for taking other jobs through vocational studies.
That's fair. My next question is, will there be no funding for humanities inside prop? How many of y'all feel the answer is yes? Just raise your hand. How many of y'all feel that the answer is no? Just say, if it is yes, just raise your hand. If there will be no funding for humanities inside prop. I see 4 hands raised. Is it from the previous? Okay, there are 4 again. 3, 2. Okay, there's only one person saying that. Hema, why do you feel so? Okay, there's nobody. All right. Yes, there's actually going to be some funding for humanities inside prop, and that's something that you need to clarify in your first speech. The reason why it's necessary to be clarified is because yes, there could be less benefits immediately to humanities and literature, but that doesn't mean that there are no benefits at all.
Ma'am, was there any previous funding for humanities? That funding will continue?
There was some, yes.
I mean, we need to see the records.
Okay. The next is, what do you think is the efficient burden on proposition? Do you guys understand what burden is? So in order to win that debate, you need to fulfill those burdens in order to, basically reach and convince the judge. How do you think? Okay, Aditi, tell me, what do you think is the burden on prop?
The first thing we have to convince them is of the efficiency by which we are going to implement this one-child policy if we are going to implement it. So we have to propose it in such a way that it should.
Did you say one-child policy?
Yeah.
Oh, so we have changed the motion now. It's vocational studies versus literature and humanities.
I'm so sorry.
Yeah, it's okay.
Yeah. All right. So, like the very basic fact that unemployment generally is covered under the topics or the arenas of economics, which is a part of humanities.
Whoever is.
All right, may I?
Yeah.
So basically, the matter of fact that unemployment, the topic is under the arena of economics, which is a part of humanities. So the major proposition burden would be to defend why they are prioritizing vocational studies more. Do they actually believe that literature and humanities do not have skills? Like, if we talk about the major fields, like for example, someone here said that the modern growing demands or the trends are asking for more of vocational studies. So one of the factors that, there are certain studies, for example, for mental health, for new strategies that are coming in the sphere of these subjects. So these are studied under the arena of humanities and literature, and that is psychology or philosophy. If we have to understand various things, because now
what you're saying is that proposition has higher burden because there's so much like good that humanities and literature can bring. That's a good observation. Tanisha, what's your point?
Even that
humanities and literature do play an important role in providing such jobs which have a higher economic values, because if you provide vocational trainings, you will have jobs which work on substitute capital. But if you have a job considering humanities or literature, they have a job with higher capital value and they are well respected in the world out also.
Okay, so I think two things that you need to identify is this one, it's a comparative motion, which means that you see the word opposed, which means that they've already identified there are two things. You just have to compare them. Why one's benefit is better than the other. So proposition has to tell these are the benefits of prioritizing funding for vocational training, and these are the harms of prioritizing literature and humanity. The way how you can do it is couple. One, what are the returns out of this funding? Second, what's the urgency of this funding? Third, how are you likely going to solve the problem much efficiently? So there are a couple of metrics that you can identify by yourself and say that these are the metrics that we identify. If we fulfill that in our side, I think we should win this debate. And I think this is literally the opposite for opposition. But moving on to the more important part, which is what are the parts of an argument? There are three important parts of an argument. One is assertion or claim. Second is reasoning or analysis. And last is example. This is where most of your answers are going to be, questions are going to be answered. But before I go forward to what assertion is, what reasoning is, what example is, what is your assumption? What do you think is the most important part of an argument? Just, you can unmute and tell me, what do you think is the most? Dia, you don't have to give me a reasoning, just tell me.
Reasoning and analysis.
Okay, Tanisha. Okay.
I would like to consider
Example.
Somebody said example. Okay. Tanisha, what were you saying?
I would like to think assertion and claim, because it's very important to choose a side and then work on the reasoning.
Okay. Aradhya?
The very two main parts is that conclusion and evidence.
Evidence is a part of reasoning, yes. So your answer is more or less reasoning. RJ?
Yeah, and in my opinion, it's more of reasoning and analysis, because irrespective of whatever your claim is, provided that you're able to reason it out and convince your opposition or the moderator in this case that you are on the winning side, then you have an advantage.
Soumya, what do you think?
Right, so I think it's the example, and there's a reason for it because, okay, an assertion is a claim. That's all it is. It's something that we think would happen or we think exists. A reasoning is just supporting that, and that too can depend on the listener's opinion, right? They can think it's an ideal. The best counterpoint to that would be it's an ideal situation. An example solidifies that point, in my opinion, that why my assertion and reason makes sense, because it has already happened or is happening in this particular place.
Okay, Aditi?
I think the most important thing is reasoning, because if you want to convince someone of your argument, it's very important to convince someone, right? So if you want to convince someone, it's very important to analyze the topic and give a perfect reasoning for it so that people trust you and get convinced more.
Okay, fair. Nishtha?
I believe that example is the most important one. I agree with Soumya, because when you give an example, you already prove the assertion that way. And when you have an already given example, the people realize what is the reasoning, what is the analysis. They can make it out themselves. So
Can anyone
is an
in the
easier
chat box
way.
tell me what format are you all doing for this tournament? Okay, cool. Thank you. I just wanted one clarification. All right. Neeti, yes, what do you think?
I feel reasoning and evidence. The evidence is the most important part because it proves that your sources are trustworthy and it supports your reasons and your claims.
Okay. Tanisha, last, I think. And I think we've already done it. All right, no issues. So the answer to that question is reasoning is the most important part of an argument. The reason why that's true is, and specifically for the format that you're actually debating in, British parliamentary, most parliamentary debates, the first thing that you need to know is assertion is just the heading of your argument. It's just one claim. You're saying that, hey, if you ban smoking, it's going to have better health impacts on the people. That's just a one one-liner. I'm not sure why that's true. So you will give me reasonings and analysis in order to prove as to why that's true. But in order for just to supplement it more, in order for you to say that, hey, the reason as to why you can believe my reasoning is my example. You may or may not have examples for vast majority of times, and it's all right. The reason as to why that's true is because of the same problem that you all identified. If the debate becomes about examples, it's just a mess. I can give an example, my opponents can give a counter example, I could give another counter example, and then counter example again. Then it's just about quantity, it's never about quality. So the reason as to why you can still defend your example is through your reasoning. For example, me saying that, hey, direct democracy can work in because it is working in Switzerland is just a cherry-picked example. The reason as to why I can't give, like, I could give counter example of saying that, hey, there are so many more countries who aren't following direct democracy is a counter example. But a better way to tackle down the entire point is by giving reasonings as to why it only works in Switzerland and why it's likely to not work in other places. So your reasonings is very difficult to take down as opposed to your examples, which is why your reasoning could be like literally anything. It could be principle reasoning, it could be historical reasoning, it could be logical reasoning. So it's difficult to break logical reasoning as opposed to example, which is why reasoning is very, very important as opposed to examples. But also because British parliamentary and most parliamentary debates are impromptu debates, it's difficult for you to come up with example for literally every single thing. For example, it could be a love motion, it could be a motion about science, AI. You could probably not have a example, but you do have good logical thinking, and therefore you know that, okay, if this is happening, I can at least tell that this is the reasoning as to why is likely to benefit you. So reasoning is why, how, and the supplement to like whatever you're saying, and this is what matters to the judge the most as opposed to example. So I think this is very important for you to understand. This is just an example. For example, if the motion is this house would make voting compulsory, the claim would be it supports the principle of democracy. My reasoning is going to be democracy is a form of government that reflects the opinion of majority of the population. If people from all class, caste, categories will vote, it gives reflection to the diverse form of opinions and hence actually shows the true form of governance. Democracy is also based on the idea of informed citizens and civil awareness, which means that making voting compulsory would compel the government to create more awareness regarding policies and manifestos. So what I did in the reasoning is that what is principle of democracy? Democracy is two things. One, reflection of majority of opinion, but secondly, informed citizens and making people aware of the civil responsibilities that they actually have in a democratic society, which is why when you make it compulsory, it's likely to actually lead, and you're actually defending the whole principle of democracy. So if a country actually follows democracy, you rather make like it compulsory for them to vote. This is just the reasoning. This argument can literally stop here. But in order to make it stronger, I'll give example. An example could be literally illustrations. It could be you giving statistics. For British parliamentary and WSDC, you don't have to give statistics because it's just something that probably an average reasonable voter would not know. So your examples are also supposed to be relevant and specific to average reasonable voters. So something that average reasonable voter would know. Is this something that average reasonable voter would know? Probably, because probably if you're an Indian and you're reading newspaper every day, you also know that there's a big problem of Indian population not showing up to voting booths. So this example says that in India, only 60-70% people vote for general elections, which does not reflect the political choice of the entirety of India. Hence, making compulsory would increase voters showing up to their voting booths. This is the entire complete argument with claim, reasons, and example. Moving to I think the rest of the time I'm just going to give it to you. You're going to make arguments, you're going to make reasonings. The argument is assuming that technology exists, this house would travel in past and kill baby Hitler. Okay, how much time do we have left though? Okay, let's see who has an argument. Johan, what's your argument?
If we were to do this, then probably it could have been a fixed point in time that Hitler was supposed to cause World War II. So
no, it's supposed to be at a time when he was just born. Let's say he was just a baby. There was no.
Yeah. But if we kill him as a baby, it means World War II never happened.
Correct. Yeah.
So this might also lead to the fact that atomic bombs were, say, never created because Japan would never end up attacking USA.
Yes.
However, it may also lead to conflict because what if World War II is a fixed point in time? So then undoing it would cause a whole mess.
Yes, that's also true. So this argument, this is just a point. Can anyone frame the claim for that point? There's a claim and then there's reasoning. I mean, Johan, you have to do it for yourself. So tell me, you did present a point, but that's not an argument. You have to first identify what the claim is, and then tell me what your reasoning is going to be. Claim is just one sentence. I can help, and then somebody else can like help in reasoning it out. So the claim is, this could lead to preventing mass destruction. And then your reasoning could be, one, Hitler was, okay, I see your hands raised. Aditi.
My claim is that I would like the house to not travel in the past because the whole world was affected by the things that happened in World War, right? So we may not be here again. If you travel back in time and change such a major change, then what like we are sitting here right now, this wouldn't be the same situation. We may not be seated here right now, and maybe we are some other different person because World War II was a very major thing. It affected the whole world. So thinking of going back in time and killing Hitler, that basically means World War II never happened, which means that we will all be affected. And again, it will be an invalid.
I mean, then it's like a very vague statement of saying that a lot of things could be changed. I mean, I'm not sure why that change is bad. I'm not sure why
because
yeah.
Because if the world has so many changes, there would be no like suppose at the atomic bomb example that he gave. So in that one, the technology got developed there, right? Then atomic bomb technology would not be developed. So many people in China would be saved, and many people in China would be saved. That it means that Japan. I'm sorry. I was talking about Japan.
Yeah.
Many people in Japan would be saved, which means that Japan's technology would be much more superior than what it is right now, because they would have more time to develop, right? So it basically means that we would be living in a whole different era with whole different level of technology, and the world would be very much totally very different.
So I mean, the claim then is World War II is not necessarily a bad thing. Because it contributed a lot in terms of, I know,
Wait.
it's like a very, very controversial statement to make, but it contributed a lot with respect to the international development in political development,
UN,
technologically development. Yeah, that's why I said it. I mean, I definitely don't mean in terms of like the amount of atrocities that happened. Obviously, that was bad. Soumya, what's your point?
Right. So could I make a claim?
Yes. Tell me your claim and then tell me how would you reason it out.
Right. Okay. So my claim would be that I believe that killing baby Hitler would not prevent a world war from happening. Can I now reason that?
Yes.
Right. So the situation and the role that Hitler played in World War II, it was not something that was like, okay, this person was destined to cause an international war. It was not like that. Hitler was a normal child who was born in a normal household, who did things which seemed normal, normal in the sense of it's done by many other people. It's not something uniquely done by a dictator who caused a world war. So to say that just one person, I agree, Hitler played a huge role in World War II. I agree with that. And killing him would certainly change the outcome. But it would not prevent a war from happening in a world without peace treaties, in a world hungry with countries hungry for power, in a world that does not have any accountability to other nations except their own, and not even just their people, just themselves. The governments themselves have accountability.
I would probably say, if I were you, I would probably elaborate it by saying that I will establish that war was led because of conditions and not Hitler
Yes.
per se, which means that if these conditions were to happen irrespectively, Hitler is not something that is to be blamed for, but you would probably avoid a lot of things Hitler did. But it's also true that Germany was in a desperate position, which means that any other person who was in power could have probably done the same thing. It's like a probability propensity argument. So that's how you would reason it out. And that's also like additional to what you said. Good job. I don't think I have time to take a lot of arguments though. Is the OC there? How much more time can I take? Anushka?
Yeah, I feel so we can just take one last person.
Okay. One last person, and I'll take somebody who has not spoken yet. Let's see. Ira.
I think killing Hitler would not do anything great because we got few things out of it. We got the UN, which has stopped major conflicts from happening. So I think if World War II never happened, we would be still stuck in the same situations as the countries would not have come to a complete different idea. Like if you think about it, we have formed allies with different countries right now to prevent wars and stuff. That would not have happened if World War II wasn't going to happen. So I think we should not have done that. Like we should not kill.
Like, the wrap up of this conversation is that people realize that like conflicts is not a way to actually resolve problems between countries, which means that there's so much in terms of diplomacy, there's so much in terms of just like talking stage and all of that. But then there's so much more in terms of like just make treaties and sign treaties in order to have like peace treaties and stuff for you to avoid conflict. Because war does not essentially lead to, let's say, one country winning and one country losing. It leads to like mass destruction, which is why your preferred way of solution should not be war. So people learned what not to do in cases if there are conflicts between countries, which is why whenever you make arguments, three things that you need to remember: claim, reasoning, and example. And if you're done with all of these three things, tell the judge as to why your argument is the most important argument and why the judge should care about it in order for you to win the debate. And that's it for today.
Thank you so much, Afreen. That was truly very informative. And, the example that you used in the end, Hitler's example, that was really great, And, it was a very interactive session. Thank you so much for, interacting with the participants and making sure that they have a very good understanding of how a debate goes and, definitely giving them so many great pointers. So now, moving on, guys, we have Avdesh from Satya Sai Indore. Avdesh was last year's first runner-up. And so now, Avdesh, can you please share your experience with the team? How did you like FNF? Would you like to share some tips with them? So over to you, Avdesh.
Thank you so much, Mayank. I'm sure I'm audible to everybody.
Yes, Avdesh, you are.
Okay, all right. First of all, a usual thanks to the Vijaybhoomi team, Mayank especially, who's been a treat all throughout it all. Anushka, who's been a wonderful host all through Initium, and of course, Vinita ma'am. She's been the soul and heart of this competition, conducting it year after year after year again. One thing that I'd like to share to all of the participants here who would be coming to Vijaybhoomi for the first time. I'll tell you this one thing. It is one of the best campuses in all of India. Like I used to peek out of my window and I used to see waterfalls running. I used to see picturesque hills, and it was truly, truly wonderful. Which usually set the tone of the competition for me all throughout. Now, I'm sure I don't have much matter that I can say that hasn't been exhausted already by my colleagues from last year. I think Yukesh was here and he was talking to me about how when we had debates, how we prepared for it, right? So what happens in a British parliamentary debate competition is, for those of you who are participating for the first time, I too was participating for the first time last year in of course FNF in a BPD for the first time. So what happens is that when you see you're accustomed to a set of thought processes, a set of mental processes when you have done enough debating कि अगर ये चीज आएगा तो मैं ये चीजें बोलूंगा. And it is usually accustomed by a lot of statistics, a lot of facts. But what the essence of a British parliamentary debate is is that how well you can connect with your audience, how well you can connect with your judges. And that's why, as Yukesh and I were discussing, what we found to be the crucial aspect of actually connecting with the audience was knowing your audience. Right. I'm sure Yagya here talked about how the Panchayat example. A majority of the audience must have seen Panchayat. So that's a very good way of connecting with the audience, and you can get a huge round of applause at the end of your speech for that. Because that's what people remember. What my thought process was that at the end of my speech, there should be something or a set of, as as ma'am rightly quoted, a bunch of claims that the judges or the audience should remember कि हाँ ये बंदा ये बोल के गया था, and it was quite structured, and we just have to cherry pick the examples he dropped to us. Like we have to pick out what he said to us and apply it to ourselves. And that's what I thought it to myself. And as Mayank talked about providing some tips, one of the tips I would rightly say is that a lot of the topics that you get in a British parliamentary debate is that they're very ambiguous, right? As you must have seen the contentions right now. Let's take the Hitler one for example. When we talk about that Hitler one, we don't have any context or purview as to what effect has it has. Like if we kill Hitler then and there, does it affect geopolitical uncertainties right now? Will it have has it had any effect right now? Right. So that's what the proposition and the opposition can define. So what I say is that if you're opening or even if you're closing, define the contention first. What does it mean to you? And then start putting on your constructors and start putting on your negations, and that's what will work for you. Again, thank you so much, Mayank, for having me.
Thank you so much.
Avdesh, thanks. Hello,
Yes,
Avdesh.
Vinita ma'am.
Yeah, thanks so much, Avdesh. You know, it just seems like the other day that we were all together, na? It doesn't seem like as if a year has passed.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Let me tell all the participants here that Vinita ma'am has a knack for hospitality. She just loves all the students. It's really great connecting with her.
No, it was so much fun. It was so hectic, but
absolutely.
so much fun. Nah? We just don't know how those 3 days just sort of went. But it was lovely meeting all of you all. And I think you guys were so sporting and so good at what you do. I mean, you really know your craft, Avdesh. So thank you so much for sharing. And we look forward to meeting you again. For sure.
Again, yes,
Yeah, for sure.
Again.
Okay. So guys, so I hope today's session was meaningful for everyone. So I just wanted to reiterate a couple of things. First and foremost, I'm sure by now you would have got your motion. You would also know the timing for your round. So I'm just reiterating some of the logistics. The prelims for both the junior and the senior category are on the 14th. We have 2 rounds on the 14th. Round 1 will be from 9 to 10:15, and round 2 will be from 10:45 to 12 o'clock. Okay, so round 1 would be simultaneous for both the juniors as well as the seniors, and so will round 2. Now, based on the round that you're in, you would have received a motion. So everybody at one timing will debate on the same motion. Okay, and the next round will debate on another motion. You would have also received, and Mayank, correct me if I'm wrong, the email which will, yes, Mayank, I can't hear you. Can't hear you, Mayank.
As for the mails, am I audible now?
Yeah.
As for the mails, ma'am, they have been sent to majority of participants. They have, so if there's anybody who hasn't received the mails will be, you will just receive them in like another, let's just say half an hour or 45 minutes.
Right. So the email that is going to be sent to you will have the motion once again. It will also give you your team code. Okay, so moving forward during the debate, we won't be addressing you by name or by school. We will be addressing you by a code number. Okay, so it's extremely important that your Zoom link, that your identity on Zoom should only be the code. Okay, so that's what the best practices are. So the mail will give you the round, will give you your timing, will give you your motion, it will give you your position, and it will give you your Zoom link. I think Mayank and Anusha and team have been sort of really at it, and some of you all would have got your mail, and the rest will receive the mail very shortly. Okay, so I just thought I'd say that to all of you all. We will be completing all rounds on Saturday itself. Okay, any questions on this bit? Okay, one other thing. As far as if you're a junior, if you've enrolled into the junior category, so what's happened is that we've received far more responses on the senior and the juniors. We have got reasonable, decent numbers, but maybe not enough in the juniors. So our plan is that if you're like I said, if you've enrolled into the junior category, you will be debating this Saturday, and let's call that prelim round 1. You will also be debating next Saturday, and everyone in the junior category will be debating this Saturday as well as next Saturday, and we call that prelim round 2, which will have another topic, and similarly by Thursday you'll get that second topic. We will then add your scores of this Saturday as well as next Saturday. Okay, and based on your scores, the top 8 teams will move straight into the semi-finals, and whoever's in the semi-final will then, of course, come to Vijaybhoomi for the next semi-final as well as a final. This only applies to the juniors. For the seniors, we go through the same motion of the prelims. Then, of course, by Monday, we will be declaring the results. So you would then know whether you'll be debating next Saturday in the pre-quarters. And then, of course, the semis as well as the quarters, the semi, and the final. Okay, I hope that's clear. Any questions?
Ma'am, so the juniors will first debate with the juniors and then the seniors?
No, you'll remain within the fold of the juniors.
Okay.
Okay, so Navya, all of you all will debate this Saturday, and all of you all will debate again next Saturday.
Also,
Okay,
I have a query, ma'am.
Yeah.
About that, since in the rule book, when will be the side of motion be released?
Yeah, so that's the email that you're going to get. If you haven't got it already, you're going to get the email
Actually, we've
very
got
shortly.
the mail about the motion, but not of the side.
Yeah.
We can do is, if something like that has happened, what we can do is we'll send you an email again and make a note of your name. And it'll be done again. Don't worry, it'll be shared very soon. Just in another half hour or so. It'll be done if that has happened. It hasn't happened with majority of participants, but if that has taken place, it'll be done very soon. Don't worry.
Okay. Yeah, I think Mayank, what they can do is they can independently WhatsApp you. If you haven't received your position in the email, then I would suggest that you send Mayank and Anushka a WhatsApp message, and they will immediately give you your position. Maybe that got missed out in your email.
Okay. All right, and I also wanted to ask that
Yes.
the motion which has been released is same for all the participants in junior.
In that particular round, yes, Vanika.
It's same. And
Yes.
also the last query, please.
Yes.
In the rule book about the competition, it's written, first of all, it's written that each speaker has to speak for 5 minutes.
5 minutes.
But
yes.
in the same page itself, down it's written that each speaker has to speak for 7 minutes. So what about
No, that's an error. It's 5 minutes, Manika. I'm sorry. Maybe that's an error. It's 5 minutes. And Manika, what I would suggest is tomorrow there's a session with the debate master. Okay. So tomorrow, all the rules, the regulations to do with our debate will be discussed tomorrow. All this time you've been getting tips. Tomorrow we'll be talking about our format, the debate, our FNF format, that is. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. And I'm so sorry. Maybe that was an error. It is 5 minutes.
Never mind. Thank you so much.
Manika, it's 5 minutes. Okay.
Yes,
Yeah.
ma'am.
Yes, Siddhi.
Ma'am, the junior students, they will also be debating on Saturday the round two, right?
Yes, yes,
And
yes.
the motion for round two will be impromptu or
No. It'll follow the same pattern. Thursday again, we'll declare the motion for next Saturday.
but on Saturday we have two rounds, right? 9 to 10, 15 and
No,
10,
no,
40.
Siddhi, there are basically we have a few tracks, right? And you have round, when I say round one, Siddhi, there are two rounds this Saturday. Okay, there's one which is 9 to 10, 15, and there is a second round from 10:45 to 12. But you will only debate in one round.
Okay.
Okay, this Saturday you will only debate in one round. I think the juniors, Mayank, correct me if I'm wrong, are all at 9, na? Yeah, as of now, Siddhi, whatever you've been given, you will only be debating in one round with one motion this Saturday. Next Saturday will be a different debate.
Okay.
Did you get me?
Yes, and ma'am, another question that
Yeah.
the positions, whether we are for, against, and the deputy opposition or what, we will be getting it in the mail itself, right?
Yes, I think your mail would have mentioned that. The mail that is going to come to you will mention the position.
Okay. Okay.
Okay?
Ma'am.
Yeah. Mayank and Anushka, I think this is something that you all need to check.
Yes.
Yeah.
I would like to say that all the participants, you would be getting the entire details in your email. If you do not get any, like if you don't get hang of any, you can just contact us. We have shared our numbers on the chat box. So you can just call us or contact us for any query.
Are we clear, everyone? Yeah. Yeah.
Ma'am, can I ask a doubt?
Please, Johan, go ahead.
So we won't be debating alongside our seniors?
Johan, you'll be debating in your own category, which would be the juniors.
Okay, so can you outline once again which all days the juniors have to debate?
Yeah.
And which all rounds?
I'll tell you. Okay, so Johan, if you have, assuming that you have registered in the junior category, okay, I'm therefore assuming that you are in the junior category. Okay, if you are in the junior category, then your first, let's call it prelim round 1, is this Saturday the 14th. Okay, there are two timings on Saturday. You would either be debating at 9 or you would be debating at 10:45. The email that is being sent to you will specifically tell you that. Got that? So it's one motion, one round this Saturday. The second round.
And we will also have the 10 round next Saturday.
Yes, that would be prelim round 2. And that's only for the juniors.
Okay.
So you'll get another topic, you'll get another position. We repeat the cycle next Saturday. Okay. We'll take this. That, yes. After that. So we'll
Saturday
take this.
Third week.
Right. So, right. So Johan, the scores of this Saturday plus the scores of next Saturday would give you your total score. Got it? And then we look at the entire pool and we take the top 8 and we put them straight into the semis.
Okay, ma'am.
And then from 8, we
the
filter.
Top 8 rule is for
the
both
top
the
8 goes into the semis, only for the juniors.
Oh, only for the juniors.
Only for the juniors, because we don't have enough to go through all the rounds. Got it?
Okay, miss. Thank you.
Yeah. Yes, Soumya, you have a question?
Yes, ma'am. Just one small question.
Sure.
By top 8, you mean the top 8 teams, right?
Yep. For the juniors, yeah. It's just that for the seniors, because we have enough numbers there, we go through all the rounds. We go through the prelims, then we go through the pre-quarters, then we go through the quarters, then we go to the semi, and then we go to the final. But for the juniors, we have prelims, semi, final. Clear?
And as for any other queries, guys, please feel free to contact me and Anushka. And
I think Khadija has a query. Yes, Khadija?
Yes, ma'am. Good evening. I would like to ask whether the scores will be revealed after the first round.
Yes. All scores will be revealed.
Will the scores be revealed immediately afterwards, or?
Right. Yes. I think by Monday or by Tuesday latest, you'll get your scores.
Okay. During both rounds.
Yep.
Okay. Thank you.
Excuse me, ma'am.
Yes, Siddhi.
Ma'am, have the mails been sent to everyone?
There are a few people the mails haven't been sent to. Siddhi, if you haven't received the mail, you will receive it very shortly. Don't worry. And in case there's any other, if in case you don't receive it still, please feel free to text me and I'll make a personal note of your name and I'll make sure you receive it very soon.
Okay, thank you.
I think just let's give it a timing by say maybe Mayank by about say 9:30 if they don't get their mails, right?
It will be done before that.
Yeah, no. So let's put an outer limit. If by 9:30 you don't get a mail in your inbox, contact Mayanka and Anushka.
Okay, ma'am.
Yeah? Okay. Are we clear, everyone? Okay. I think that's good to go. Thank you so much for joining. Don't forget tomorrow, Debate Master. Okay? Khadija, tell me. Khadija? And anyone, any other queries? Yeah, thank you, Aditi. I'm still here. If anybody has any questions, the rest can leave. And please don't forget to join us tomorrow.
Ma'am, I would just like to know the preferred time for tomorrow's class because we would be having our school hours.
Same.
Okay,
7.
that would be great.
Yeah.
Thank you, ma'am.
Initium always is the same time. Okay?
Okay, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, excuse me. One left to go. And this is just the beginning. God. Mayank and Anushka and Saeed and Rohit. Feels like as if 1 year has gone by, no? This last 1 week. But you all are doing a very good job for the first time, I think, seriously. Okay. Any issues, Mayank? I think this email, just check. No, main thing is, have we forgotten to put the position into all the mails? No.
Hey, just double check once with these two people. I have taken them.
No. It's so if it's been missed out for a few, it's just an oversight. No? It's not that we've missed them all out completely for all mails. No? Okay.
I'll speak to them on the phone also.
Okay. So 2 things. The Mayo change in names have been incorporated, right? Then Reliance just messaged me, Lodivali, who I think registered very late. So they were wanting to know if they can attend the sessions or whatever. So I just make sure that they're part of the group. And I think the third thing was, which was this group who said that they will make the payment. NPS. Yeah. The teacher called me. So that is for sure happening. Okay.
I'll just drop you a text.
Yeah. So now what I need from you, Mayank, is like the final list, which I can now share with the judges, the matchups. So what I'll do is track-wise, if you can just give it to me track-wise, the 2 rounds on each track, then I'll assign the judges. Okay? Yeah. You don't necessarily have to give me the names of the schools because I don't want to reveal that to the judges. Okay? But my, okay, here's what I would request you to do. Anywhere where you know that there are some good teams and good schools, please highlight it to me. Okay, I'll make sure that there are some better judges in those tracks. Got it? Use your discretionary powers and give me a thumbs up saying that in this track, like you can make out now, from the, yeah. So just do that because then I'll make sure some of the slightly more experienced ones are in those.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Yeah. Anything else? No?
Now, if there's anything, I'll let you know.
Yeah. So just complete the emails and send me the tracks for the judges. Most important, Anushka, is that now start assigning the tracks to the moderators. Okay, moderators should again give a call tomorrow to everyone. Make sure that the Zoom link, the virtual background, make sure that the backgrounds are shared. All of that needs to be done by the mods tomorrow. Are the mods kind of prepared now?
Ma'am, we would be having a meeting today, so we would be getting a gist of what's there and what's not.
Is there any issue with the mods? Then you have to tell me. Give me a heads up. Okay.
Not as of now, but today after the meeting, we would be having an idea like what's the issue and what's not the issue. Also, ma'am, I wanted to know how many judges would be there for each track, like 1 judge per track.
1 judge per track, no? So right now I'm planning for 8 because that's what our data now. We are saying that you have 4 tracks for the seniors as of now, and you have 3 tracks for the juniors as of now. So that's 7 plus 1, 8. If you have to add a 9th judge, you don't worry about the judges. I will manage the judges. Okay.
And that is also mentioned to remind you about the special prize for the junior category. So that's there.
Yeah. So we are going, that's what I think we're sticking to the same cash price. I don't think we're changing that.
Okay, ma'am. So
we're sticking to that. Yeah. So that doesn't change. I already made the end. So remember that when the mods are calling up the juniors, let them just reiterate that this is prelim round 1 and there'll be a prelim round 2 next Saturday. Just let them reiterate all of that. Maybe a few didn't attend the session today. So we can just reiterate these instructions. Okay. Maybe what you can do is ask Meenal to make a checklist of the things that the mod needs to confirm with them. And most importantly, Zoom link should not have the name, but it should be the code.
Yes.
And tell them to log in at least 10, 15 minutes before so that all the code, word, all that we can just check, sound check, everything can be done.
What we would do is we would just make the task list for what moderators have to convey to the participants. Like
and share that with me. Send me the task list or what the mod has to tell the participants and what they need to do. I think you also have Medha's checklist from the past.
Yes.
On this. Chanchal in Yosha's checklist. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Chalo. And you have your swing debaters in place, no, Mayank?
Yes, ma'am, we do. I'll just share the names with you.
Yeah. Just keep them in place. Make sure they have the Zoom link. And if they're there with you, better. Okay. Yeah. Okay. And let me know if there's anything I can do from my end. Okay. Yeah. Judges' profiles have not come in, as yet.
Just one profile, but ma'am, we have already made a profile by ourselves. So
yeah, you can take it straight from, where? The IFM Law College website.
Ma'am, we have also viewed their LinkedIn and we have taken their profile from there.
LinkedIn or as I said, the IFM Law College, you can just go ahead and do that if they don't respond. Okay. If you're stuck, let me know. Okay.
No.
Yeah. Okay. Chalo. Bye, Saeed. Bye, Rohit. Thank you. Yeah. Bye.